Hello and welcome to our virtual yoga class. My name is Vanessa and I'm here to support you for the rest of your practice. And so we are focusing in cultivating that sense of presence and spaciousness arriving to this moment. So we'll begin by laying on our backs, noticing that as we transition to lay on our backs, that is our yoga practice beginning. We're arriving to our body. So what I mean by arriving, I really just mean noticing. You're noticing your breath. You're noticing the back of your head touching the mat. You're noticing your heels touch the mat. This is what I mean by arriving. And then throughout the class, we deepen that awareness into the poses, expanding into our flexibility, strength, and balance. And then building those connections of our physical, mental, emotional body. Again, this is a holistic yoga class where we are seeking not just physical health, but mental and emotional health as well. It's all connected. And we cultivate this perception, this awareness in our yoga class. So you're laying here back on the mat, gathering your breath, noticing what your breath is like, no judgment of your breath. And then taking an intentional breath. Let's inhale here, exhale, sigh it out, release tension from earlier in the day, from this week, from last week. There's a lot going on. Inhale, exhale, sigh it out. And notice that by sighing out, you automatically release physically, mentally, emotionally. Release tension. And at any time, you can always have a regular exhale. When I offer an exhale sighing out, it's an offering. You can choose to do a normal exhale. You're softening your neck and shoulders down the length of your back, down the length of your legs to your heels and your toes. A moment of pause and rest here before we move into more active portions of class. An opportunity to gather ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally. Perhaps you can invite an intention that you can go back to throughout the day. Now, this intention could be a word or it could be a phrase. See if there's something in particular you want to integrate today. Ask yourself what you're cultivating for yourself and accept the simplicity of any inner guidance. It could be something as simple as love or wisdom, determination. Gather a few intentional breaths, lengthening your inhale and exhale a little longer than you're accustomed to. Intentional inhale, belly expand, ribcage expands. Notice that exhale, that release. And then we'll start to invite a full body stretch, lifting our arms up overhead, pointing your toes, lifting your abdomen up towards the ceiling. Find release throughout your arms and neck, down your spine to your toes. A way to wake up the body. And then after that full body stretch, we'll start to release that. Bend both knees so both feet float off the floor. Lift your forehead up towards your knees, round your spine, hold, and then drop your head back. We're gonna drop our left leg onto the floor, lift our right leg up, interlace your fingers behind our thigh, breathe into your hamstrings. You have the option of rotating your ankle here, clockwise, counterclockwise. You can always intensify that stretch around your hamstring, bringing your leg closer towards you. If you want to shift the stretch into the hips and glutes and open up more, you can drop your leg towards the right and towards the left. So you can keep a sway moving back and forth, or if you find that you want to focus in one area, go ahead and keep your leg still and focus in that one area that is calling your attention. Most of the stretch that's activated here is around your hamstrings. Breathe into your edge, fold a little bit more, inhaling and exhaling intentionally, belly expanding. To the best of your ability, you soften your neck and shoulders. Another breath here or two. And now bend bend your right knee, grab your right knee with your hands, flex your left foot around your spine, forehead towards your knee, activate that core around your spine, tuck your chin towards your chest, and then drop your head back, opposite side, bend your left knee, lengthen your leg, interlace your fingers right behind that thigh. You can rotate your ankle here. You can bring your thigh closer towards your belly, your chest. You can drop your leg towards the right, towards the left, shifting that stretch into glutes and hamstrings. Once again, you can keep that sway, or you can hold your leg in one position, breathing into wherever that stretch is calling your attention. Please invite intentional breaths. You want to invite your breath as you're deepening into your flexibility. Deep belly breath. One or two more breaths here. And then start to drop that left leg, bending your left knee, grabbing your knee with your hands, and now rounding your spine. You're flexing that right foot, rounding your spine. Chin moves towards your chest. Get that rounding in the spine. Activate that core strength. And then release your head back. Let's take an inhale, exhale, side out. And then start to lift up. We're going to keep our legs long. Flex our feet, lengthen our spine. We lengthen our spine by activating our core, lifting our chest, dropping our shoulders down. Chin is neutral. Breathe into your flexed feet, into your calves, into your hamstrings. An intentional breath here. Inhale, exhale. And then after that breath, start to fold, reaching your hands anywhere, shins, thighs, or toes. You can invite a little bend to your knees. Most of your attention is in your hamstrings. Breathe into both. Keep your spine long. Chin is neutral. Try not to crunch up around the neck and the shoulders. Inhale. Exhale. And then start to release the pose. And start to bring both soles of the feet together. You can rest your elbows in the creases behind your knees. Fold, spine long once again. Breathe into your edge. See where you can fold a little bit more. And what I mean by folding, it can be a very subtle shift, very subtle shift into folding a little deeper. It doesn't have to be anything more dramatic or intense. Inhale. Exhale. Release. We're going to shift into a forward fold from here. Drop your head, soften neck and head. You can cup your elbows with your hands here. Rock towards the left, towards the right. And then release, press through your heels. We're going to sweep our arms up overhead. Hands meet in front of our heart center. Inhale here. Exhale. Noticing left hand press against right hand press against left hand. Eyes closed or eyes open. Release your hands. We're going to shift into an extended mountain pose. So that extended mountain pose, both palms face each other. You lift your chin, your gaze, chest is open, arms radiate out, feet is grounded. Just a gentle way to activate throughout the spine, chest, and arms. Release your hands. Inhale, sweep your arms up again. Interlace your fingers. So this time, we're going to stretch towards the left. We're going to ground that right heel onto the floor. Notice that side body stretch. And then back to center, opposite side. Side body stretch. back to center, release your hands. We're going to bring our arms out to a T. And then go ahead and twist. I'm going to face this direction. You're going to bring your arms out to a T and then leading through your chest, twist towards the right. Taking your gaze over your right hand and doing the best that you can to keep your hips squared towards the front. Now your hips are going to open up naturally towards the right. You're just doing your best to invite that twist, taking your gaze over your right shoulder, pivoting your hips towards the front. Back to center, opposite side. Inhale here. Exhale, release your hands. Inhale, lift your arms up overhead to like a balance. Palms up towards the ceiling. Lift your heels halfway or all the way up. Keep your gaze steady. Invite a steady breath as well. And then release your hands, release your feet. We'll shift into a warrior one. From your warrior one, we'll shift into a warrior three. So the foot that comes forward is going to be the foot that we're going to balance on. So make sure you feel grounded on that left foot. Right leg steps back, right foot is in a diagonal. In a warrior one, you want a 90-degree bend to that left knee. You want to square your hips towards the front. Again, we have a tendency to just kind of opening up our hips. Here, you want to square our hips towards the front. You're grounding through your heels, your arms lift. Look straight ahead. This is a grounded pose. Breathe from your heels all the way up to your fingertips. Notice that line of energy from the base of your spine to the top of your head. Glutes are active, quads are as well. Your lower body is active, grounding you into the ground. Notice a gently active core, arms stretched out. Now for that warrior three, we take our hands in front of our heart center. We start to press into that left foot, left heel simultaneously lifting our right leg so that our chest and our leg are parallel to the floor. Keep your gaze steady. Notice your breath. And as always, with any of these balancing poses, especially our one-footed balancing poses, feel free to step out of the pose and back into the pose. Notice where your breath is. And then start to release both hands down towards the floor. You can be on your fingertips. Inch your hands forward just a little bit. Make sure your shoulders are above your hands. Lift your right leg as high as you can. Soften neck and head. Belly shifts down towards that left thigh. And now right foot meets that left foot. Hands on your shins. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, release, fold, forward, fold. Soften your neck, your head. Breathe into your hamstrings. Anchor down through your heels as we sweep our arms up overhead. Your choice if you prefer a mountain pose with hands in front of your heart center, or if you prefer a mountain pose, hands framing your hips. Eyes opened or closed. Arriving to our bodies, welcoming our breath. Noticing by welcoming our breath, we're welcoming ourselves. We're cultivating that inner silence, spaciousness, awareness. Inhaling and exhaling. We breathe for the day we've had so far. We breathe for this moment. And we breathe for the rest of our day. Release your hands, whichever position they're in. Shift into that two-legged balance, lifting our arms up, interlacing our fingers, palms up towards the ceiling. Lift your heels halfway or all the way up and hold, keeping your gaze steady and even breath. Notice that paradox, stillness and shifting at the same time. Start to release your hands, release your feet, pedal your feet back and forth here. And now warrior one. And once again, a reminder from warrior one, we're shifting into a warrior three. So the foot that goes forward now, let's see, before our left foot went forward. So now our right foot steps forward and our left leg steps back. I believe that's what we did before, yes. So your right foot is forward, left leg is back, a 90-degree bend to that knee, hips square towards the front. You wanna anchor that back heel, square your hips towards the front, activate that core, lengthen throughout the arms, chest open. Find a point to focus on, keep that gaze steady. A steady gaze is a steady mind. Breathe from your toes and heels all the way up to your fingertips. Activate your glutes, your quads. A grounding pose, a pose of strength and endurance. Inviting generous breaths here. Arriving to this moment, to your breath. We start to take our hands in front of our heart centers and we prepare for our warrior three. We press through that right foot, ball of that foot and heel. We lift our left leg so it's parallel to the floor. Keep your gaze steady, chest and leg are parallel to the floor. As always with these poses, you can always step in or out of the pose. A lot of core strength here. And now start to drop your hands down towards the floor. We're shifting into standing splits. Shift your hands forward. Lift that left leg as high as you can. Soften neck and head. And then the left foot meets that right foot. Soften neck and head. Remain here, breathing into your hamstrings. And now sweep your arms up overhead, grounding through your heels, your choice. Which type of mountain pose you'd like to shift into. Notice the quality of your breath here. Inhale and exhale. Release your hands. Let's ground those balance poses with a goddess pose. We're gonna lengthen our stance. Left toes to the right, right toes towards the right, heels inward. We tuck our tailbone and drop here, bending our knees. Hands either in front of your heart center or you can lift your arms, palms facing, hold here, steady gaze. Ground through your heels, sit a little bit more. Another pose of strength and stability and endurance. Inhale here, exhale. Hold the pose, but not your breath. Invite that inner smile. And then lift out of your goddess pose. Point your toes towards the front. Take your hands to your hips. Hinge from the hips. Fold halfway. Breathe into the backs of your legs. And then as you start to fold, you can drop your hands, either gripping your shins or toes or elbows. Deep belly breaths. Feel free to hear your inhale and exhale. Soften your neck, your head. Deep belly breath. Three more deep belly breaths. And now take your hands to your hips, lift halfway, ground through your heels, and go ahead and lift up to standing. We're gonna go ahead and shift. Feet right beneath or about hips width distance apart. Sun salutation. Let's lift our arms up overhead. Extending through our spine. Exhale, fold down, forward fold. Softening neck and head. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, release, step back into a plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Press through your palms, lift up. Upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. Once in that down dog, lift that right leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Right knee towards that right elbow, hover. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Deep belly breath, and now left leg, lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Left knee towards that left elbow, hover. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Generous breath, inhale, exhale, lifting your hips, grounding through your palms. Now plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your right leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Generous breath here as you're grounding through your palms. Right knee towards that right elbow, hover. And then lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Lift your left leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. Left knee now towards that left elbow. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. And now release that foot back down towards the floor. Generous breath, inhaling, exhaling, pressing through your palms, lifting your hips, lifting your heels, and then last round, plank pose. Release down towards the floor on an inhale, lift up, engaging your glutes for support. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then once in your downward facing dog, lift your right leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Right knee now towards that right elbow, hover, pressing through your palms, activating core strength. Inviting a deep, powerful breath, lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Last round, lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Now left knee towards that left elbow. As you're pressing through your palms, you're bringing your chest closer towards that right thigh. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. And then release your foot back down towards the floor, downward facing dog. 3 breaths in your down dog. Feel free to hear your inhale and exhale. And then start to shift into a plank pose. Drop your knees onto the mat. Drop your belly onto the mat. From here, you have 2 choices. You can shoot your fingers out behind you like so, or you can interlace your fingers. Now, if you do interlace your fingers, please be purposeful in drawing those shoulder blades closer together. 5 rounds, we're gonna inhale up. You can lift your feet. Exhale, release. Second round, inhale up. Exhale, release. For a total of 5 rounds. Now in that 5th round, you're gonna stay and remain there. An extra breath cycle, 2, 3, or even 4. It's up to you. It just depends on what level of endurance you wanna work with. Remain there an extra few cycles of breath in that 5th round. Finding strength through that inhale. Notice that strength throughout the lower back. Core strength as well. And then drop one of your cheeks onto the floor. Drop your hands, right? Purposely soften your body here. Now you're relaxing the body. The body is not active. So though your body's relaxed, you still remain attentive and aware of the breath. Few more cycles of breath, 3 to 5 breaths. Inhale and exhale here. Inhale and exhale here. You'll start to shift your hands. And now this time we're gonna bring both our arms up, both our legs up. So you're gonna take your arms out like a superhero, palms facing each other. Point your toes, you're gonna inhale up. Exhale, release. Move with your breath. Second round. Exhale, release. Third round. Take your shoulders away from your ears. On that fifth round, remain there an extra breath cycle, 2 or 3 or 4. Trying not to tense up the shoulders here as you're lifted up, breathing through that extra breath cycle. When you're ready, release your opposite cheek onto the mat. Drop your arms, your hands, very purposely soften your body. Neck down the spine, soften, release, let go. Remain attentive with the breath, noticing your inhale, noticing your exhale. You can always notice specifics of the breath to help you with your focus and your concentration. And what I mean by that is you can notice the beginning of your inhale, the end of your exhale, vice versa. Three to five more breaths here. Inhale and exhale. You'll start to shift from this position, grounding your palms onto the mat, framing your chest, and then lift up into an upward facing dog. Engaging your glutes here, finding that extension throughout the spine. And then exhale, shift into your downward facing dog. You can pedal your feet back and forth in this downward facing dog. More openings around the hips and the hamstrings. And then you'll start to release that downward facing dog into your tabletop, tops of the feet on the mat. Ground your palms right beneath your shoulders. Inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. Take your chin towards your chest. Inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine. Move at your own pace, either with your breath, inhaling cow, exhaling cat, or remaining in any of these two poses, an extra breath cycle or two, in order to explore and deepen into the stretch. One more cat and cow pose wherever you're at. Start to shift into a neutral position. We'll lift our right leg, bend our knees, stack our hips here, hold. And then release your knee back down towards the floor. Opposite side, lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips and hold. Release your knee back down to the mat. One more cow pose, cat pose. And then transition to sit in your cross-legged position. Rest your palms on your knees. You can either close your eyes or keep your eyes focused on one point across of you. 3 breaths here. Inhale and exhale, lengthening your inhale and exhale a little longer than you're accustomed to. Cultivating that inner sense of stillness, spaciousness, awareness, presence. And after those 3 breaths, open your eyes. We'll focus on our neck and our shoulders, areas that carry a lot of tension. Drop your chin towards your chest. Roll your head from one shoulder to the next, completing a full circle or just half circle. If you prefer to work on meditation, just bring your head back to a point, to a still point, to a neutral position. Otherwise, a few more breaths. Allow yourself to deepen here, releasing tension in the neck, shoulders, upper back. Also notice we tend to curve forward most of the time with our phones and our laptops in the car. And so we want to balance that out, like giving our shoulders, neck, back an experience of opening up, finding balance there. Another 2 or 3 breaths here. And then you'll bring your head back to a neutral position, intentional breath. Inhale here, exhale, sigh it out. Lift your shoulders up towards your ears, draw them back. Being intentional and drawing your shoulder blades closer together as you draw them back. And then another round, maybe forward. And then after a few rounds, moving forward, release, come back to a neutral position. Take your hands right behind your head, twist towards the left and towards the right. A couple of times, either moving swiftly or holding one position. And then after those rounds, release your hands, start to not lengthen your legs, actually we'll do another core workout. Let's bend our knees, soles of the feet on the floor, we'll shift into a boat pose. So very helpful for this exercise is to imagine a cord, lift your chest as you're lifting your legs. And so you can also take your hands behind your thighs for extra support. So you're gonna lift your legs, hands can grab your thighs for extra support, or you can take your hands, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Lots of strength here around your quads, core strength. Any shaking is fine. Try to lengthen your legs as much as you can. And that other core workout, we're gonna start to lengthen our legs, tuck your chin towards our chest, hold. And now drop your head all the way back. Let your breath collapse, meaning take a natural deep breath. Inhale, exhale, sigh it out. Lift your arms up overhead once more, that full body stretch. Pointing your toes, lifting your abdomen here. And then drop your hands, bend your knees, ground your feet onto the floor. We're gonna lift our hips just a few inches off the floor. Palms are on the mat, hold here. And then drop your hips back down to the mat. Inhale here, exhale. And now lift your hips as high as you can up towards the ceiling. Hold here. Drop your hips back down towards the mat. Inhale here, exhale. Last round, lift your hips as high as you can. Imagine that cord lifting you up from your abdomen. Your glutes and your quads are engaged. You're distributing weight around your heels. Palms on the mat, or if you prefer, you can interlace your fingers, draw your shoulder blades together. That's going to give you some more lift. Lift your hips as high as you can. And then release your hips back down towards the floor. Feet float off the floor. Grab your feet with your hands. Start to rock to the left, to the right. Bend your knees generously. You can bend one leg more than the other, lengthen one more than the other, or do both. Take whatever you need here for one of our final stretches here. Around ankles and calves, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, and hips. Another few breaths here. And then start to shift into your boat pose. Sorry, not your boat pose, your butterfly pose. So we'll release our feet. Now soles of the feet touch, knees are bent. Soles of the feet touch, knees are bent. Hands can rest. Frame your hips, palms up towards the ceiling. You can rest your hands on your belly and chest. This is helpful to regulate the breath. You're much more aware of that inhale and exhale when your hands are on your chest and belly. You can lift your arms up overhead, backs of the hands on the mat, elbows bent. That will invite a little arch to your spine. If your hands are framing your hips, it's going to keep your tailbone closer towards the floor. There's benefits to all of these poses or these expressions. Feel free to explore all of them or just one. Now, you have access to full diaphragm breathing here. So that means that there's nothing constricting that full breath. So take a full breath, expanding that breath as much as you can. Familiarize yourself with the experience of your full breath, noticing what's accessible here, what isn't. And just a few breaths, deep belly breaths. You can even exhale side out if that's helpful. So reminder, our breath helps bridge our physical, mental, emotional bodies. And at any point, you can go back to your regular breath. Do soften your neck down the spine, especially around your hips. Imagine those knees fall further towards the floor. This is a restorative pose, meaning it's a pose of stillness, softly opens up the body, but still opens up the body in a very powerful way as well. Notice that throughout the class, you've been cultivating this stillness, this presence, this awareness. Another 3 breaths here. And then start to shift out of the pose. We'll shift into our last resting pose of the class, our Shavasana. So lengthen our legs, palms face the ceiling, framing your hips. Make any adjustments you need to feel comfortable in this pose. Excuse me. Settle into a natural breath. You always have the option to practice intentional deep long breaths. That is an option. But you can also just go back to your natural breath. No control of the breath. And here you continue to cultivate that inner stillness. Continue to cultivate arriving to the body. But here you soften and relax. There's no performance, no need to do something. This is a pose that allows us to let go and to receive. It allows us to integrate our practice. It teaches us the wisdom of stillness and doing nothing. I'll support you by guiding a little mini meditation. Soften your forehead and jaw, neck and shoulders. Soften down the length of your arms from palms to fingertips, noticing your pinky, forefinger, middle, index, and thumb soften just a little further. Soften the upper back, mid back, lower back, down the length of your legs, behind your knees to ankles and toes. And then we'll start to shift our attention back to our breath, inviting a generous and leisurely inhale and exhale. Restore some movement to your fingertips and toes. You have the option of inviting a full body stretch or allowing your body to remain heavy and relaxed on one side. Once again, return to your generous and leisurely breath, the type of breath where there is no hurry. You're here in this moment. And after another generous breath or two, start to make your way up to your seated position, moving slowly and intentionally. Make any adjustments to bring more integrity to your seat. Eyes opened or closed. We'll take a moment to appreciate our breath. As we appreciate our breath, we are welcoming our experience. And that is a practice of self-care and self-compassion. So in the spirit of this and in honor of our practice and in honor of our efforts, let's take our hands in front of our heart center and inhale here and exhale. And in the tradition of yoga, the highest in me sees the highest in you. We walk with each other in gratitude.